So excited to have you here today on my I Love Learning podcast. If you don't know me, my name is Dr. Gina Anderson, and I am the CEO and co founder of Luma Brighter Learning. We're a learning company that is in the transportation space that has a connected learning platform that we'd love to connect learners. And one of the reasons I started this podcast, and I'm so excited for my final episode of season 2, is to bring on a guest that really ties in my reason for having my podcast, and that is mental health. And we all have something in our lives that we're struggling with, and it's the reason I wanted my podcast is to connect people with amazing people that really are plugged into strategies, resources to help you overcome the impossible. So today my guest is Dr. Kelley, and I will tell you that she just found out, I think this week or the end of last week, that her TEDx talk actually made the TED stage, the big TED stage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important because Dr. Kelley really focuses on, really people and people's mental health. And she is a trauma therapist. And I mean, I could say so much about her, but really she's an advocate. And I love that she advocates for this topic. And we're going to learn so much more. And she's going to tell you where to follow her so that when her TED Talk comes out, you can share it, like it, spread the message. So thank you, Dr. Kelley, for joining us today. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us, everyone, what you're passionate about?
Sure. Well, thank you for the pre-introduction introduction. So I'm Dr. Amelia Kelley. I am located in the Raleigh-Durham area and have a private practice here, Kelley Counseling and Wellness. And I've been working in the field for over 2 decades now. And basically anything related to psychology is like my special interest. So whether it be talking to other thought leaders like yourself in the future on my podcast, The Sensitivity Doctor. I've got quite a few books that are all kind of stacked up behind me, focusing on things from gaslighting to ADHD to suicide recovery. I really lean heavily into empowerment, and I love that learning is such a big part of your work because psychoeducation is one of my favorite things about the work I do because I really love empowering the people I work with to know why we're doing what we're doing, what they're experiencing, why they're experiencing what they're experiencing, so they can walk away a steward of their own mental health. And so that's so important to me. And I mean, I could keep talking about myself, but let's talk about all the other things too.
Oh, no, I love that. So what the main idea was and why you think that Big Ted picked it up, why that topic is so important.
Well, and I will tell you, I found out Friday, and when I found out, I looked like I had won the Miss America pageant because I
Oh,
burst into tears. I was like
yes.
so overwhelmed. I went running out. We were about to go camping in the mountains, and everyone's out front getting the RV all stacked up, and I've run outside and I'm crying, and I'm like, I have something to tell you, but it's not trauma. It's not. No one's dead.
Oh,
so, so I was very excited. So my talk it was before the breaking point, a new approach to kids' mental health, and it is based on actually an idea that was born from a specific situation with a client that I had encountered who had a near lethal self-harm incident, and also coupled with actually thoughts that I have had since Sandy Hook.
mm.
So this idea actually started that far back, but it was solidified in some of my clinical practice. And it is that I believe we should be following models that are already working in other countries in our world for making mental health normalized enough where we are assessing it as commonly as we're assessing other things like vision and hearing and ticks or
Mm.
whatever it is, lice. I was
Yeah.
thinking of all the
Oh,
things that
okay.
they test with
Yeah,
kids,
okay.
but and it's really a threefold situation here. On one hand, when I was using the term normalize, we are, as a country and as a nation, as a world, starting to really wake up to mental health, having bigger conversations about it.
Mm.
But what we're not doing is making it as commonly assessed, as commonly explored, as commonly monitored as other
Mm.
things. So how can you normalize something that you're not testing? You really can't. That's number one. Number two, I believe strongly from what I've seen. I was not only a school-based counselor, but I was also a guidance
Uh-huh.
counselor. So I've had two different rounds of
Okay.
working in the schools, in the
Mm-hmm.
mental health realm, in different capacities. Is that kids, yes, some kids won't answer honestly on these screeners. They won't, but
Mm-hmm.
some will. And the
Mm.
ones that do answer them honestly, if we can even help a portion of them. And research shows that there is in states that are implementing this, and it
Mm.
is cost effective. It is manageable. There are ways to do this ethically, and there are ways to make this so a part of the regular culture of the classroom and of our
Mm.
schools. But they're showing that these kids are getting hooked up to services. And then finally, my hope is that it is a solution
Mm.
to what has now been a very partisan topic. We're talking about school violence.
Mm.
This is in my opinion, a bipartisan approach. We can all agree on kids' mental health. We can all agree on the importance of it. And this allows us to hopefully identify that one student who's really struggling, who might have done something that could have been really traumatizing and really tragic. Like we can catch these things early. So we need
Mm.
to make this normal and accessible for everyone.
Yeah, that's so important. And, kids' health and adult health, I think, is just like critical. It's one of the
Mm-hmm.
reasons I started this podcast is because
Mm-hmm.
people are struggling, and they
Mm-hmm.
want resources. So, what do you suggest if someone that's listening today, whether it's someone young or an adult, if they're
Mm-hmm.
struggling,
Mm-hmm.
what would you recommend if they say, look, I've lost my passion for learning? Because I'm a learning scientist, so I know learning and finding your passion and your why is so important. But what would you recommend to them if they're struggling today? And there isn't that in place today, so we don't know. I mean, there's no evaluation really for that. What would you recommend to them?
Mm-hmm. Well, I like that you brought up the piece of learning because it is truly a sign of health that you feel inspired, that you feel driven to seek
Mm.
information. So I actually would encourage people to get curious and start learning about
Mm.
their symptom presentation, get curious about it,
Hmm.
explore it, research it, empower yourself, find the answers. And there's a lot of ways to do that now. Some are less credible than others. I will definitely recognize that. So, I mean, ideally, I believe that it should be as normal for us to have a counselor on call as we have a general practitioner on call. But I know
Mm.
that's not the reality for everyone,
Mm.
but it is so much more accessible now. If you feel the light has been flickering out and you don't want to take that next step because it just feels too big, you can start with online counseling. You can start with,
Mm.
getting really hooked into your favorite credible podcast about mental health.
Mm.
Like really leaning in and getting serious. Normal to
Mm.
need mental health care. It's
Yeah.
normal.
Absolutely. It is normal. Everyone
Hmm.
needs mental health. You and I were talking about like even every single person makes decisions to protect how they feel. If something is making you feel bad,
Hmm.
then you have to identify that and remove yourself
Hmm.
because you have to protect your space. So I love that idea. And last week I had somebody on my podcast, Bruce Jones, who's in the transportation space, wanted to ask you this. He wanted to ask, what was one moment in your life that completely changed the way you saw yourself, and how did that shape the person that you are today?
Whew. Changed the way I saw myself, other than motherhood. Um,
That's awesome.
because that really does it. It's interesting. I think instead of it being one situation, I can look at this season of my life where I felt a little confused about my path or my career, and I kept
Mm.
trying to do too many things all at once, and then I kept falling flat on my face.
Mm.
And it was when I allowed myself to not see other people's successes as something to be envious of, but something to be like motivated by.
I love that.
And so I remember seeing one of my old coworkers had been on this podcast called High Heels and Heartache. And I had this I had this moment, balloons. I don't
I
know.
love it. That's the moment. It's celebrating your goodness. It's so good.
My app has some crazy things happening, um but I remember being like, you know what? I could continue to sit here and be frustrated that I'm not where I want to be, or I could just do something. So I contacted that podcast and said, hey, I've literally never been on one before, but I know this person that you interviewed. Can I come take a crack at it? And she took a chance on me. And that led to everything because she is Kendall Ann Combs, my co-author from the first book I ever wrote that was published.
Wow.
Because when we were leaving the podcast episode, I looked at her and I said, and this was in person. This was pre-COVID. We
Okay.
were both in the
Mm-hmm.
Raleigh area. I think that's like one of the only podcast episodes I've ever done in person. And
Okay.
I looked at her and I said, have you ever thought of writing a book about all the stuff you learn on this podcast? Because it's really great. And she looks at me and goes, well, I was an English major. And it was just like, it was almost like the ball just kept going. It was like when I
Yeah.
stopped trying to do all the things that I thought would be cool or I thought would be really great, but they just really weren't in my special
Yeah.
interest. And I,
Uh-huh.
I just kept saying yes. But then I will say recently in the last, I don't know, year or two, as things have taken off, I've had to learn now to say no.
Yes.
So I'm like on the other end of the spectrum.
Yes, that's so true. It was interesting. So last week I was at the Inc. 5000 conference
I
celebrating the
know I saw.
fastest growing
How
companies, and I
fun.
actually, I got to meet Jay Shetty, and if you know his podcast, and he's
Mm-hmm.
a real big thought leader, and he said something when I talked to him that really stuck with me. So one of the things is, like, you think about like a tennis player. I played tennis in college,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things is, like, when you play an individual sport, you're really
Mm-hmm.
looking from within. And when a tennis player wins a match, a championship match, where do they end up? They end up on their knee looking upward, looking at themselves, really
Mm-hmm.
looking at something else that's really empowered them to become a champion. Versus
Mm-hmm.
like a team sport where you're looking and you grab each other. But one of the
Oh,
things
right.
about leadership, and you just said this and you just kind of implied it, you really are looking at yourself, and you don't want to compare yourself. You're not comparing
Mm-hmm.
yourself to the other player. You're really comparing yourself to your own abilities and your
Right.
own skills and your own motivation to want to get there. And so
Mm-hmm.
that is something really powerful. I think a realization that that is the mind of a champion. That's why I do
Mm-hmm.
this podcast, because it just shows that you need persistence and you need the confidence and all of these
Mm-hmm.
things to move yourself forward. So I'm proud of you. I think I met
Oh,
you
thank
and you're
you.
just incredible. And you're right. You want to lift each other up and celebrate, when you do
Mm-hmm.
good things. And I think that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Next week on my podcast, I have Daniel Westmoreland, and I will tell you something. Next week, we have a new theme. It's going to be the power of small, which I am dedicating to the season of the TED Talk, because it was the power of small. So this
It
whole year, we're going
was.
to talk about small things that make a big impact. So what do you think we should ask him next week?
Oh my goodness. Um, what what do you do if the small thing, and it truly is a small thing, still feels huge?
Oh, I love that question. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
goodness. We can't wait to see how he answers that.
Me
That's going to
too.
be incredible. I mean, there's so many things. Is this something, so your work that you do, is this something that you just learned, or did you read something, or how were you motivated to go into this type of work to help with the mental health, especially specifically children?
Well, I mean, it is what I went to graduate school for. But I will say it's an interesting story, I think. I've told it a couple times, but I originally was going to become a graphic artist. That was
Oh,
my undergraduate degree, but I also have a minor in psychology. And I had interned at MTV in the art department. They had pretty much said if I wanted to come back after graduation, like I had a place to a show that's now dead. So who knows what would have happened with that. But, and that was right around the time of 9/11. And
Oh.
as a New Yorker, you know, there was a lot of different ways that that impacted me, family, people I knew. But
Mm-hmm.
that year, I had watched randomly an episode of Oprah where an art therapist was not interviewing, an art therapist she was interviewing an art therapist who was working with survivors, children who had survived their parents being lost in the towers.
Okay.
And,
Wow.
and it was like this light bulb moment. All of a sudden, I was just like, wait, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Or
Yeah.
therapy. Just, it was just like everything clicked. And I late applied to a handful of graduate programs, got waitlisted. And the
Mm-hmm.
one I wanted the most, I called them every day for
Wow.
months, like, what's the status of my application? To the point where they were like, okay, Amelia, we don't know yet. So definitely, I was internal locusing my control to the world. But so I think it's always been just part of my interest. But I went to graduate school. I went for my doctorate. I've done
Mm.
continuing ed. It's just what I've always loved, and I've just always learning. I'm
It's
always
your
learning.
passion. I
It's my
love it.
passion.
You got to
Yeah.
find that the thing that ignites your why, right? It's so
Hmm.
ingrained in us. And when you find it, it just opens up everything. You live and breathe like kind of your passion. And so that's really
Hmm.
powerful. So, what do you do to keep yourself happy? Like, what is that
Hmm.
for you? Because you are in an intense field and you do meet with people and you
Hmm.
do provide therapy. So, what things do you do to help your happiness and to make you feel good?
Boundaries.
Mm.
Number one. Play.
Mm.
Number two. So well, I have more than two, but every day I try to do something creative, something productive, something physical, and something playful.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not like prescriptive about it. It just is
Uh-huh.
kind of naturally part of my day. And
Mhm.
so, like, for example, today I got up and I worked on a couple of my little passion projects. I worked on a training I'm putting together for Pessy. And then I worked out, and then I practiced piano, and then I had a good
I love that.
meal. And then I jumped in for my first therapy session. So, like, I try to, whenever that works with your day, whoever you are,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
movement is everything for me. I mean, if I
Mm.
don't work out, I say I'm a momster. Like I need
Trademark
movement.
that.
And that,
Monster.
yes. And I need just enough social interaction to like tap into my high sensitivity and my need for intimacy, but just enough alone time
Mm.
to like let me download all the stuff. And so I will say if I have a particularly tough day with clients,
Mm.
um, yesterday was kind of a challenging day. And I remember I came home and I just told my family, I was like, I don't have a lot in the tank tonight. And I
Mhm.
just give myself grace. Like it just,
Yes.
you just have to give yourself grace.
So important. I do
Hmm.
something similar with running.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
the exercise really helps the breathing. It's about that breathing, like from a learning
Hmm.
science standpoint, right? And you know this with our brains. It's like
Hmm.
that constant breath in. I could have a headache. I could be feeling really bad and I could go run the bridge, or it's that dopamine and the chemicals and the breathing that
Right.
really helps make you feel better. So,
Hmm.
even when you don't feel like movement, it doesn't have to
Right.
be running, right? You just have to
Right.
make time for it so you help that. So this is my last episode of this season, Dr. Kelley. So tell us what winning, this is my theme this year, the whole year. I was really interested in hearing what people said winning meant to them. And I have a whole year of perspectives of people talking
Hmm.
about winning. So what does
Hmm.
winning mean to you?
I love that you're asking me this right after I found out about the TED Talk. Um,
Yes. Yes.
gosh. I think winning, okay, so winning to me is actually not the end, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. It's not the finish line. To me, it's a way of I know I'm winning if I'm continuing to want to work towards something I'm excited about. So if I still feel a forward trajectory, I feel like I'm in a winning motion. Um,
Oh.
and I also think that in that forward trajectory, though, I have to purposefully stop
Mm.
and pause and soak in the wins. I have an elite athlete I work with. I was doing a brain spotting session with her yesterday, and she's been struggling with some of her tucks and tumbles and all this stuff. And I asked her, I said, do you ever acknowledge how
Mm.
hard what you're doing is? Like, I could break my neck if I tried to do what you're doing.
Yeah, you don't want me not doing that, especially a
No,
cartwheel.
I mean, I could still do some basic gymnastics from being a kid, but
Mhm.
I can't do what she can do. And it was just like this aha moment, like, no, actually, and this is her speaking, I don't take the time.
Wow. Mhm.
And there's my dog.
That's all right. They're good. We love dogs on our
Let me-
podcast.
oh my gosh, I have to let him out. Hold on.
Okay.
Hi.
All right. Well, this was what happens in live podcasts. You can't control animals or things that happen with children. So
I put him out there.
that's good.
It's funny because when oh my gosh.
You're fine.
Can you hear him really badly anymore?
No, we're good. We
Okay,
can
good.
hear him, but he's just talking in the background.
I think he's barking at my kids who got home.
That's all right.
But as far as the winning portion, when I found out, I made myself stop. I didn't text anyone. I didn't call anyone. I didn't look anything up. Like, how good is it if I got my like?
Yeah.
I didn't do any of that. I just marinated for a second. So I think winning also, you're not really winning if you're not marinating in it, because otherwise you're just constantly striving without feeling it.
Oh, I love that. That's so true. It's being present. It's what my TEDx was on. It's being present in the moment,
Yes.
right? It's so important. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of the work you're doing and truly making an impact and changing lives. It's really my passion. If somebody wants to connect with you or learn more or follow you so that they can share your TED when it comes out, where is the best place to learn more? So tell everyone, share when it comes out and post in the comments, but also leave us today with some lasting positive voice to go into the holiday weekend.
Oh, for sure. Okay. Well, first and foremost, if you want to find me, you can check me out at my website, ameliakelley.com. And I try to make it as empowering and psychoeducational as I could. So you'll find everything from free book resources, my podcast episodes, which you can search topics, quizzes, are you a highly sensitive person, meditations. I mean, just like anything and everything that I have to offer, I tried to put it there. If you want to set up consultations, workplace checkups for sensitivity and neurodiversity friendliness, all the things. Holiday weekend. This is live, right?
Yeah, it's holiday week. Well, it's Halloween tomorrow.
Halloween weekend. Yes. Don't eat too much candy. Just kidding. I think, what I would really say is to try, if we can, this is going with the mindfulness piece. And I'm saying this to myself too. You don't have to already be planning 3 weeks ahead, 2 weeks ahead, 4 weeks ahead. Like, be here today. If you have kids and you're, doing the thing, trick-or-treating or whatever you're doing, or if you don't and you're not doing that, like, we don't have to make everything perfect. We can just try to be a little bit more in the moment. And finally, be careful, guys. I call this time of year the weekend of the year, where we flood all the resources, all the money, all the bad food, all the family time, all the friends, all the socializing. Pause, especially if you're highly sensitive or neurodiverse. Like, it's okay to not say yes to everything.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I appreciate you and the work you're doing. I hope everyone connects with you. And until next time, everyone, be safe, be kind, be loving, and keep learning. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. And join me next week for my new season on the power of small. Until then, we'll see you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.